think the line I'm going to remember most from this episode is, because, Philip, I had to ask you twice. We're here for Mr. Robot, Season 3, Episode 7, Frederick and Tanya, and my God, is this an awesome, just incredible episode. Every single episode is great. Again, where are the Emmys for this show? This show better get nominated for Best Drama and win. I'm sorry, Walking Dead. I'm sorry, Game of Frickin' Thrones. This is the best show dramatically on TV right now. Hands down. It was back in Season 1 and Season 2. I looked up who won Best Drama, and it was Game of Thrones the last 2 years. And I'm sorry. I love Game of Thrones, but this show is so much better than that. Just an episode like this, to me, outdoes anything that Game of Thrones has done. This is Breaking Bad level good. So if this season does not get some serious consideration, then I don't know if it's a subject matter that spooks people out and doesn't want to award a show like, for the kind of subject matter that it's in. But it'd be a real miscarriage of justice at this point for this show not to get recognized. Because on a weekly basis, we are getting unbelievable television. So, full spoilers, because this episode kicks so much ass and is devastating. This is Frederick and Tanya. Now, if you don't know, Frederick and Tanya are these aliases right now that are Mobley and Trenton, who went on the run during Season 2 because things got too crazy for them to handle after 5/9. Now, they'd been found by Leon, who was, if you remember, Elliot's cellmate in prison, who was there to protect him by Whiterose. Well, Leon has Mobley and Trenton, tied, locked up in his Mobley's apartment. They've killed his roommate, and they pretty much assume the worst, that they're going to die by the Dark Army. Because why wouldn't they? I mean, they've seen other people get killed for what they've done, and so their fear is genuine. So it's hilarious that in this, scene of uncomfortable terror for these two people, of course Leon's talking about the sitcom Frasier, which is just, I'm trying to figure out if this is just that guy's way of, explaining the world through sitcoms and television. I don't know. But, his description of, why does Frasier get so much ass is pretty good. I personally never understood why Frasier was winning so many awards, but I definitely agree. Why did Frasier get so much ass? Well, I can understand the actor getting it. I mean, famous people, in general, can get a lot of ass. But the character itself, just being a radio show guy in Seattle, maybe still. I don't know. That show was in the 90s, so I don't know. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with Mr. Robot. Although then he continues on with his little not understanding the love not given to Knight Rider. And we are treated to the Knight Rider theme song, which I'm not a big Knight Rider fan, but that soundtrack is pretty goddamn catchy. So, he's driving them off into the desert, and it feels very much like a scene talked about in the movie Casino. People getting driven out to the desert don't usually fare so well. So that's where our main titles hit, and automatically right out the gate we got good dialogue, we got good acting, we got atmosphere, great soundtrack. It's so we're not even a few minutes in and we're killing it on this show. And man, I just watched it, so I hope I don't forget anything. I believe the next scene is with Angela and Darlene, and it's, Angela's watching the aftermath. Oh wait, nope. The first thing was Elliot freaking out over what he's seen, and he's wigging and hard. He's having what looks like the granddaddy of all panic attacks. He ends up at Krista's to talk, but it's just too much. It is too much, and it's great the way they do the audio mess up, where his voice starts to go. It's like the audio on a headphone or a speaker going out until it's gone, and he disappears, and Mr. Robot is brought to the front to take the driver's seat. Elliot can't handle this right now. He is let him go. And this is, again, Christian Slater just killing it. Finally telling Krista, look, we aren't just some assholes, okay? We did this. We are 5'9", And it's understandable how somebody might not, believe you. There's a lot of crazy people that would want to take responsibility for bad things that happen. And, but given his background and Krista's knowledge of Elliot's capabilities and things like that, she shouldn't, she should be quicker to get on board with what's going on. But knowing that you're dealing with a client that has a split personality, whatever. But there's just some great acting in here from Christian Slater. Trying to explain to Krista everything without giving everything up. His frustration at Elliot, this whole situation being caused by their fractured relationship, all the things that might have been able to be avoided, potentially. The frustration of the two voices in somebody's head, the conflicting ideologies going on. Continued theme throughout this season, and I'm hoping that if there is some sort of cohesive management of the two personalities, maybe they could really do something about it. What's been going on. So, just a great scene, from the beginning of it to the end with the audio change and Christian Slater and everything, like the always great way they flip to him. So now we've got Angela. I believe now we have Angela and Darlene. Angela watching the aftermath on TV, rewind, play. Angela's pretty much gone, because even though she keeps saying that everybody's going to be okay, the realization of what she did to get to whatever is going to make everything okay is kind of, the cheese is slid off her cracker. So she, Darlene's looking at her like, this girl's nuts, and I got to go get my stuff and I'll be back. It's one of those situations where you wish you had somebody else. Because, somebody else in this condition you might think would just take a header right off the roof, Somebody in this kind of distress, I would definitely be considered like a suicide risk probably, So she goes, and, just the way Angela looks in this scene, you really buy it. She is completely gone off the deep end. And if I'm Darlene, I'm moving my ass to get back as quickly as possible. Now, I know I'm going to miss like a scene or two in here, and it really sucks. We've got Tyrell, who, the FBI have him. They all believe they have their man. Well, they want us to believe that they have their man. Santiago wants us to believe that they have their man. And they're showing him his pictures, the book to identify people. And you've got, Dom, who is finally almost accusing Santiago of something. She knows something doesn't add up, but he just won't I love how he won't budge. She's riding a very, like, razor thin line with, if she oversteps just a skosh more, she won't have any kind of power to do anything. They'll just, suspend her or fire her for, whatever. At this point, it feels like anything goes. I mean, with all the chaos around, I don't think anybody really want to worry about whether Dom got fired for whatever. There's so many other things going on. But we get the scene here where the guy that's asking Wellick all these questions, he comes into Santiago, says he's identified him, and that he keeps asking about his family. And Santiago, you see the look in his face, and you realize he's going to go do something about it. He's going to talk to this guy. And during the beginning of this scene, where Santiago is talking to his mother, and you know that there's some major problems going on with his mother, and that maybe the Dark Army had strong-armed him to do whatever they're having him do, and you kind of have maybe a little bit of sympathy for him, but you go, okay, well, after this conversation, he's going to go and be going in to talk to Tyrell and about his family. You think now he's going to go in there as, like, sympathetic to Tyrell, like, look, I'm going to let you down easy. But boy, oh boy, did that just not go that way. Because at first he's just like, you think he's going to be like, I'm sorry to have to tell you this kind of thing, that, any law enforcement person, cop, FBI, whatever, would be like, I'm sorry, your family member has died. He just comes, your wife is dead, your kid's in foster care. Hey, but the odds are only 1 in 5 are abusive. He really just slaps him in the face, punches him in the face with that information, And of course, Tyrell doesn't think it's true until it keeps going on, and then he just drops that Dark Army thing. You're going to keep doing what you're doing, or otherwise your kids, you're never going to be able to put flowers, you're not going to live long enough to put flowers on your wife's grave, and your kid's going to end up a statistic. So any kind of good will or sympathy you started to have for Santiago went straight out the frickin' window. Even though I really don't have sympathy for Tyrell. Tyrell is a psycho murderer. And I guess what you're meant to feel bad about is the kid. And those are the kind of things that on any television show, whether it's terrible like Fuller House or great like this, I don't like the whole playing the kid card for sympathy for somebody I don't care about. But that's just it. It's something that is, in the grand scheme of things, is small. But whatever. I just don't care about that kind of emotional manipulation by a show. But it happens on every show, so whatever. It's just something I wish that they would change. So, of course, like I said in the last episode, if they had said in the letter that Tyrell's wife is dead, he would have lost it then. Because you see when he leaves, that's when he loses it. You can't hear him, but he's definitely... Whew. So Tyrell thought he was doing, still towing the line, but they are dragging him through the ringer. And knowing that he still has to keep towing the line. Now, we get back to Mobley and Trenton, who are in the car. They're out in the desert, and Leon's digging a grave for their friend. They think they're going to end up dead. They're having these conversations that are really funny about J-Date and what they would be doing right now, things like that. The dialogue is really good. This is really fun. It's really like a almost Pulp Fiction-y type of dialogue where it's very how people talk. I guess it's a strange conversation that you would hear in a tense situation with a light conversation. Very Quentin Tarantino, in my opinion. But somehow Trenton gets loose of her locks. And they try to drive away, but she's a city girl, so she doesn't know how to drive, and immediately drives into a rock. Now they're digging the grave themselves, and they're still just contemplating, what are we doing here if we're not being killed? Like, because Leon said, if I wanted to kill you, I would have done it a while ago now. So there's still something, going on. They haven't been killed. They're not being put in the grave, so what are they here for? And it's just, it'd be, they do a lot of this digging your own grave type of scenes and stuff. And it's overused, but it's always one of those things where I just never understand. And if you really feel like you're going to die, don't do it. I mean, the threat of violence where he's like, I have this knife, you don't know where it's been. Some Nazi's ass. And, sure, he can torture you, he can hurt you, but if they plan on killing you anyway, I never understand why people get on their knees on their own. Why they dig their own grave on their own. If you know you're dead, fucking don't make it easy on somebody. You want to fucking take me out, you're going to have to take me out hard. I guess that's easy for me to say since I've never had a gun in my face and said to get on my knees, but I don't think I would. I think you'd have to kill me. Like the way, you're going to go hard. And so it's another one of those kind of things, and that's just not really about Mr. Robot. This is those kind of scenes in general. Anyway, so they're not dead yet. They're digging graves. And they're not getting any answers. And I hate that. That's the other thing about, some tropes about stuff. The whole doling out the information to characters that are in a situation where, why should they do anything if you're not going to tell us anything? And it's really, they're holding it back for us, not for the characters. And that gets a little annoying sometimes. So, anyway, we got more of Angela and Darlene, where Angela's rewinding one of the buildings collapsing and playing it over and over and over. And they're okay. They're okay. There really wasn't much to that scene. It's just a little bit further along, her saying everybody that died is okay. They're going to be okay, right? Furthering along the whole time travel thing. Which also, with the whole time travel thing, we've got the Philip and Whiterose scene in the party. And this is probably the most important scene, one of the most important scenes in the episode, because this is Philip finally confronting Whiterose, not letting him off the hook, calling him all sorts of F-bombs. And you still don't get that much from Whiterose, except, Whiterose got whatever he wanted. Philip has been set up from the beginning. All he was supposed to do was control Angela. He couldn't. Whiterose had to. And that whole line about, why are you doing this? What the hell? Like, you want me to find my own replacement? I'm screwed. I'm going to be out of a job. But E-Coin's fine, but you got everything you want. And that hell, because I had to ask you twice, leads me to believe that this is like almost a loop. That this is not the first time Whiterose has gone back in time. I mean, we already know that Whiterose and time are a huge thing. So I guess this is like the third time, if this is a time travel situation, that Whiterose has talked to Philip Price. And that this is the third time Whiterose has tried to change things. So what were the other two things that, in the two other times, what went wrong to require a third time now? And will there be a fourth? Or a fifth? And going into that, I want to talk about the whole time travel thing, the aspect of this show, because I don't want to be the last one in on the conversation if and when this all goes down. If this show, and this is potential spoilers for future going on, so if you don't want to hear my theory, don't listen to it right now. But if, in the end, everything goes back to, let's say, before Mr. Robot died, Elliot's father, before Angela's mother died. And we get this satisfying, oh, it finally worked, and things are back on the right track of the way things should have gone, and that blah blah, kind of happy ending. I will be really disappointed. Now, that being said, I don't think that even if I'm partially right about this, it will be as smooth and as sunny, shiny, happy people. But I do think that it's definitely where it feels like it's leading us. And so I hope it's going to circumvent my, they're going to trick me into not seeing what they're really going to do. Because I feel like, and again, another thing, I think that the Congo, the whole reason to put the place down there in the Congo, the new plant, has got everything to do with this time travel thing. Everything. The key is Congo, right? So, and whatever Whiterose knows, if this is the third time doing it, the Congo has to be the thing. Unless maybe it wasn't the Congo in the second or the first time. Maybe it was somewhere else. Maybe they're looking for the right place. So anyway, let's just get to the end part here. Well, Krista talks to her lawyer. Basically, he tells her, look, you got nothing. You can't talk unless you want to lose your practice. That's pretty much it. And she's afraid because she thinks he actually did it. So let's get through that. So we have Leon gives Trenton and Mobley over to Mr. Whiterose's assistant, and they go to a place where there's a whole bunch of computers and a terrorist attack set up in front of them. You already know, if you're smart enough, what this is. They're being set up to take the fall for a potential another terrorist attack, and that they were the ones responsible, because you find out that they're the ones that Tyrell fingered in the pictures. Not Elliot or Angela, or Darlene, I should say, but them. And that they are going to be the patsies, and that the FBI can... We have our people. We have Tyrell. We have Mobley. We have Trent. We have everything. 5-9, all this, and the terrorists, and it's all locked up, but we can all move on with our lives, and, even though that's not true anymore. And it's just tragic that, you get the bait and switch where the FBI is in the house, and during the whole time where they're you realize they're going to make them a murder-suicide situation, and the whole speech from Whiterose's assistant about sacrifice and the greatest thing you can do, and it's very, terror, just very what's that word? The really committed zealots that are willing to kill and sacrifice themselves, like suicide bombers. And when the FBI come in, Mobley and Trenton are dead. It had already happened. The Dark Army is gone. They didn't kill themselves. So it's really devastating that they're going to die. They've died, and they're being blamed and everything. And Dom, in the end, saying, that Whiterose is really going to get away with it. That's pretty much it. There's one small thing where Mr. Robot goes after Irving, gets knocked out. Irving takes him to a party that's going on by these rich people, saying your whole thing, your revolution was funded by all those rich people that even when thousands are dying, still have time to party. I think that's a fitting place to stop the review, because that's very true. We live in that kind of world, and that's what makes this episode so great, so awesome, so devastating, and I cannot wait to see where it's going to keep going. I have not watched the trailer for next week. Man, I'm emotionally, just talking about this episode is just wow. So anyway, another fantastic episode. Please like this video if you've been on here. Please subscribe. Let's talk about this. Give me some comments about this show if you feel like it. Otherwise,